Hello, operator. Can you please connect me with OTR Halloween Holidays? I don't want to miss this episode of the Ghoulie Show.
The Signal Oil Program, The Whistler. That whistle is your signal for the Signal Oil Program, The Whistler.
I am the Whistler, and I know many things, for I walk by night. I know many strange tales hidden in the hearts of men and women who have stepped into the shadows. Yes, I know the nameless terrors of which they dare not speak.
Yes, friends, it's time for the Signal Oil Program, The Whistler, rated tops in popularity for a longer period of time than any other West Coast program in radio history. And Signal gasoline is tops, too, tops in quality. It takes extra quality, you know, to give you extra mileage. And Signal is the famous Go Farther gasoline. So look for the Signal circle sign in yellow and black that identifies friendly dealer-owned Signal stations from Canada to Mexico. And now the Whistler's strange story. Decision.
It would have been far more logical had it happened in the springtime. In April, perhaps, with the rhododendrons blooming in Golden Gate Park. The kids playing ball on the green lawns and the maple trees coming to life again. Yes, spring in San Francisco would have helped explain part of it. But the rest would always be beyond logic and common sense. It wasn't springtime, it was November, with Christmas just around the corner. A cold, gray day with the steam sizzling in the radiators as he sat near the window of his office on the 20th floor of the Hamilton Building, looking at an uninspiring assortment of X-rays of Mrs. Harrison's chest cavity.
Excuse me, Dr. Evans.
Hmm? Oh, yes, Miss Carlton.
Mrs. Harrison called again about the X-rays.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with her heart. All she needs is some fresh air.
Shall I tell her that?
No, I suppose I'll have to find her a disease with 20 letters. Oh, I'll call her.
And there was another call from a Mrs. John Cameron.
Cameron?
Can you see her today?
Is it important?
Well, she said so.
Yes, they all do. All right, make it 12:30.
What about lunch?
I'll have to skip it. Mrs. Cameron's heart is undoubtedly more important than my lunch.
And you noted it down in the book simply, 12:30, Mrs. John Cameron. Later, when you had a chance to think, you decided if it hadn't happened so suddenly, it might not have happened at all. Perhaps that was part of it, Paul. The suddenness, the way it threw you off balance. But more than that, it was a black-haired girl with blue eyes standing by the window when you looked up from your X-rays a half hour later. You remember exactly how she looked. The turquoise dress with a gold belt and clip, the smart little felt hat accenting her dark hair, making you realize in a split second what was wrong with all the girls you ever knew. She must have come in while you sat at the film illuminator looking at negatives and making notes.
Evident mitral insufficiency, minor valvular lesions.
You're Dr. Evans?
Oh, right. I'll be with you in a moment. Request detailed cardiograph immediately. There we are. I'll just get rid of this stuff. Please sit down. Now, what can I do for...
Hello, Doctor. I'm Carol Cameron.
Carol Cameron? My nurse said you were rather concerned about yourself.
Oh, no, it's not about myself. It's about my husband.
Oh, I see.
John Cameron. Perhaps you've heard of him?
Stocks and bonds, isn't it?
Yes, a few too many for his own good, I'm afraid.
Oh?
He's been under a terrible strain recently, and night before last he had a rather severe attack.
His heart?
Yes. Dr. Miles, our family physician, suggested that I see you about it.
I see. Well, tell me, where is your husband now?
At home, in bed.
Mm-hmm. Didn't Dr. Miles recommend a hospital?
Well, John's awfully unreasonable. He wouldn't hear of it. He insisted that he'd be up and around in a day or two.
Well, that is unreasonable.
You'll see him,
I-
Dr. Evans?
Yes, of course. I'll be glad to. I'll do what I can.
Just like that, Paul. A minute or so and she's gone. You look up, you see her, and 30 seconds later, she could ask if you'd mind going to the North Pole for her, and you'd tell her you'd be glad to. All afternoon, you try to shrug it off. Tell yourself it's fantastic, that this is the sort of thing that keeps you away from second-rate movies. But that evening, when you call on John Cameron, it's still there. Lucinda Withers, the housekeeper, is waiting outside the door after you finish your examination.
Oh, where is Mrs. Cameron, Lucinda?
She went out for a moment, sir.
Mm.
Tell me, is it serious?
Yes, I'm afraid it is.
Oh, I knew it. I could see it coming on. He's like a son to me, Doctor. I've been with the family for 20 years now. Since way before she came.
Oh, I see.
He was never like this before.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
She's not good for him. She worries him, makes him nervous, keeps him thinking about the 15 years between them.
Yes. Well, I'll have a prescription sent over in the morning. I better be going now. My taxi's waiting outside. You just keep him as quiet as you can, and I'll check him again tomorrow.
Very well, Doctor.
Oh, Dr. Evans.
Oh,
Just a minute.
I wondered what happened to you. I was just about to go. I left instructions with the housekeeper.
How is he?
Angina pectoris. It's quite serious, I'm afraid.
Oh. He hasn't been taking very good care of himself.
He's got to now.
I see. Well, must you go right away?
Yes, I'm afraid I'd better. My taxi's waiting. Well, I thought it was waiting. Doesn't seem to be there now. That's odd. I told him to wait. I didn't even pay him.
I'd be glad to take you.
Can't understand.
The
how-
car's right down at the curb.
Oh, no. I couldn't. It'll only take a minute to call another cab.
No, it's really no trouble.
All right.
I'll get my coat. There you are, Doctor. Right to the door.
It was awfully nice of you, Mrs. Cameron.
It's all right.
Well, I guess the next thing to do is get out.
Just a minute. I want to tell you I lied about the taxi.
What?
I told him to go
Why?
because I wanted to take you home.
Why? I'm very flattered.
That's all. I just wanted to tell you.
It's happened to you too, hasn't it?
Oh, yes.
Look, there's a friend of mine, a Dr. Andrews. He's an awfully good heart man. I'm sure he'll take the case.
Please don't do that.
What else can I do? It's only going to make it worse.
I know, but you just can't throw away what's happened to us, can you? It'd be wrong to.
It'd be wrong to do anything else, Carol.
Is that what we're here for? To spend our lives looking for something that isn't there and then to suddenly find it? Throw it away?
Oh, please, Carol.
Well, shall we forget it?
I'll be around tomorrow with the prescription.
So that's how it started, Paul. Yes, it was easy to analyze it, to list a million reasons why it was wrong. But the trouble was that when you were all through analyzing, it was still there, stronger than ever. You visit John Cameron the next day and the day after that. And before you know it, the days have grown into weeks. and the damp November night you arrange to meet her secretly at a little French cafe on Washington Street leads to a lot more of them. The two of you at the little corner table Henry reserves especially, not saying much, hardly realizing how the time has flown, that tomorrow is the day before Christmas.
You know, that's one of my favorite Christmas hymns. Beautiful.
Yes.
Christmas, day after tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
It's hard to realize it. You happy, Carol?
Happy. And miserable.
Or did you expect anything else?
No. I knew it was going to be this way, Paul. It's just that I feel so helpless, and
I'm glad you came tonight, Carol, because I'm afraid this is going to be the last time.
Oh, Paul.
Don't you see how impossible it all is? We're both beating our heads against a stone wall. You're absolutely right, Carol. We are helpless. As I see it, the only thing we can do is try to be square with ourselves. Honestly, it just won't work any other way.
No, I suppose not. John will probably hang on like this for years.
Yes, he might if he's careful.
You know, Paul, it's terrible to feel this way.
What way?
I just can't help it, Paul. I almost wish he'd...
No.
It's
no,
true.
Carol.
It's true. I never loved him, Paul. My family thought he'd be good for me. I didn't want any part of it.
I know, my dear. You don't have to tell me.
He's unhappy, and he's sick, and he's miserable, and it'll always be that way. Why should he
Please,
live?
Carol. Now, this is going to be the last time. I mean it. I can get Dr. Andrews on the case next week.
Oh, no.
Look at me. Carol. Oh, it's going to work out somehow. The right way. Will you believe that?
All right, Paul. If you say so.
Yes, Paul, it was the only thing to do. The honorable thing. Approved 100% by the Medical Association. But it doesn't help you sleep that night. And it doesn't help the next day when you make your regular call on John Cameron. Examine him, find him the same, leave his prescription bottle with Carol and go. Yes, it had to end, Paul. Because you were both beginning to think the thing that Carol almost said at the restaurant. That you both wished John would die. And then at 10 o'clock that night...
Hello?
Dr. Evans.
Yes?
You must come at once, Doctor. Mr. Cameron's had an attack.
I'll be right over, Lucinda. Now listen carefully. There's a bottle of amyl nitrate in the medicine cabinet in the bathroom. Break up a tablet in a handkerchief and make him inhale it. Is that clear?
It's too late for that, Doctor. I'm afraid he's dead.
With the prologue of Decision, the Signal Oil Company is bringing you another strange story by The Whistler. Just remember these 2 points if you want to be sure of the tops in gasoline quality. 1, in gasoline, it takes extra quality to go farther. And 2, Signal is the famous Go Farther gasoline. And now back to The Whistler.
So it finally happened, Paul. John Cameron is dead. But it hasn't affected you as you thought it would. There was something so sudden about it. It happened so soon after you and Carol had decided to call it off. After she'd almost said what you'd both been thinking. Yes, there's something wrong with it. It just feels wrong. That's why after you've examined him, you turn to Lucinda.
Lucinda,
Yes, Doctor.
you were here when it happened.
Yes. Mrs. Cameron had given him his medicine and gone to bed. I heard him call.
Yes. What happened then?
He'd been violently sick. Said his throat was burning.
Throat was burnt. Well, you must be mistaken.
No, sir. And he was all doubled up with cramps.
You're wrong. You must be.
It's the truth, sir.
Did you give him anything?
No. It was my night out, And I'd only just come
I
in
see.
when...
Excuse me a minute.
Well, Paul?
Don't go in there. There's nothing you can do now.
I know. Well, it's over.
Oh, Carol.
Don't say anything, Paul. I don't want to talk about it or think about it anymore, ever.
We've got to think about it.
I know. You don't have to tell me. He was all right this morning, just as well as could be expected.
All right, Carol.
What happens now?
No, I won't say any more. But you know what's ahead, I guess.
Of course. I'll be all right. It's just
You better go to bed. You need some rest. I'll take care of everything.
It's almost midnight when you get back to the office and take the prescription bottle out of your pocket. The one you took from Carol's medicine cabinet. You forget to take off your hat and overcoat as you throw a few pieces of laboratory equipment together. Dissolve the powder in water and make a test. A very simple test.
Thiocyanin. I knew it.
Poison. Well, Paul, it's quite a decision, isn't it? You look down at the blank death certificate on your desk until the letters burn into your brain, and you can see them when you close your eyes. It's the most important decision you'll ever have to make, Paul.
Is that what we're here for? To spend our lives looking for something that isn't there and then to suddenly find it? Throw it away?
2 o'clock. 3. 4. All you can do is sit and stare at the desk, trying to think it through. Your medical certificate's on one wall, the Hippocratic Oath in a neat black frame on the other. 6 o'clock, 7, 8, and then your nurse arrives.
Why, Doctor, you've been here all night.
Yes. It's Cameron. He's dead.
Well, it was only a matter of time.
Yes, I guess it was.
I'll make out the certificate. Death from natural causes, angina pectoris, acute. Yes, Doctor?
Oh, nothing.
Hello?
Carol,
Yes, Paul.
I've just filled out the death certificate.
Heart disease?
Yes.
Do you think they'll investigate?
You've got to be careful, awfully careful.
I will.
Poison isn't easy to cover up, Carol. They'll find it in a second if they ever get suspicious. Now, listen. I'll send the certificate over this morning. If nobody gets curious during the next week, I think we'll be safe.
All right, Paul.
But we mustn't be seen together under any circumstances. I don't want you even to telephone me if you can possibly help it. Okay?
Okay.
Well, that's all then. Good luck, darling.
Hello, Evans.
Well, hello, Miles. How are you?
A little puzzled at the moment. Thought I'd drop in for a minute.
I certainly have a chair.
Thanks. It's about Cameron. I've had a rather distressing experience.
Oh?
I've been their family doctor for some time, of course. I didn't know Mrs. Cameron before she married John some years ago, but I've always thought her a rather charming person.
But she seems to be.
Yes. You know her pretty well, Paul?
Oh, well, naturally, in attending her husband.
Yeah, of course. Do you think she's a woman of character?
Yes, I'd say so.
So would I. Miss Lucinda Withers, however, seems to think she's a murderess.
Just what does that mean?
I don't know. The woman was completely confusing. A lot of rambling, disconnected remarks that seemed to imply that you and Mrs. Cameron were in love.
Well, as you said, Miss Withers seems to be confused.
Yes. Well, I just think, Paul, that you ought to do something about Miss Withers. You know as well as I that this sort of thing can ruin you.
Hello. Hello, Carol. Yes. Listen, darling. You've got to get Withers out of town. Yeah, I know it'll make it look worse, but it's the only thing we can do. Now, where's her family? Idaho. Well, that's good. Now, tell her she needs a rest, anything. I know it sounds crazy, but it's better than sitting around waiting for the axe to fall. Well, that's it. Good luck, darling.
You're walking on thin ice, Paul. You can almost hear it cracking under your feet, and it seems to be getting thinner. The funeral on Thursday, then Friday, Saturday, and Lucinda's still in town. Carol was right. It only made it worse to try and get her to leave. You're just waiting now. It's only a matter of time. And then, bright and early Monday morning...
Hello, Doctor. I'm Willard Stevens.
How do you do? I'm afraid
I'm John Cameron's cousin. Flew out from New York.
I see.
I have a rather delicate problem on my hands. I hope you'll understand.
I'll try to.
About John's death. I had a letter from him indicating he planned to make certain changes in his will. It arrived just a day or two before he died. Does that suggest anything to you?
No, I'm afraid it doesn't.
You naturally ascribed his death to his heart condition.
Yes, naturally.
I realize it would be embarrassing for me to contest your diagnosis. I'm hoping you'll work with me and...
In what?
I had a talk with Miss Withers the night I arrived.
She's a meddlesome old fool.
Oh? How did you know?
Dr. Miles told me. Does that answer your question?
It answers that question.
I assume you have others.
Indeed, I have. And I'm afraid, Doctor, there's only one way to answer them.
What's that?
An exhumation and an autopsy.
So that's it, Paul. It's all over, isn't it? The autopsy will undoubtedly be tomorrow, and after that, of course, there'll be a trial. The next decision is easy, isn't it? It would be useless to try and run away. It would never lead to anything. You and Carol could never find happiness with an axe hanging over your heads. So the next day, during the autopsy, you sit at home quietly in the chair by the phone, waiting for it to ring.
Hello?
Hello, darling.
Oh, is the autopsy over?
Yes. Yes, they're waiting downstairs to take me to the coroner's office for the report now. Listen to me. Paul, would you do me a favor?
Anything, Carol.
Will you leave? Now?
Leave? What do you mean?
Look, if it's going to happen, there's no reason for it happening to both of us.
That's about the most ridiculous thing you ever said.
Oh, Paul, please listen to
Go
me.
with them, Carol. I'll be down there in an hour.
But it's...
Carol, there's only one thing in the world right now. And when that's gone, I don't want to be here anymore.
I hoped you'd say that.
You keep your chin up, darling. I'll see you in an hour.
Yes?
I'm Dr. Evans.
Oh, yes. This way.
All right, Lieutenant. There he is.
Just a minute, Miss Withers.
Make him admit it. He's in love with her. It's been going on
I
for...
said just a minute. How about that, Doctor?
It's written all over his face. He's in love with her.
All right, all right. I am in love with Mrs. Cameron. So what?
The Whistler will return in just a moment with a strange ending to tonight's story. Meantime, all of the people in the Signal Oil Company, as well as signal dealers, and we of the Whistler cast, wish you a very Merry Christmas and a new year brimful of good health, good cheer, good luck. And now back to the Whistler.
So you stand there, Paul, shouting to the high heavens that you're in love with Carol. with all of them clustered around you like vultures. It doesn't seem to matter anymore, does it? In spite of your love for Carol, you know that sooner or later your sense of responsibility would have forced you to tell the whole story. There's a long silence, and then the police lieutenant slowly walks over to Lucinda Withers.
All right, Miss Withers, now that we're all here, maybe you'll tell us why you tried to frame Mrs. Cameron.
I don't know what you're talking about.
On April 5th, you bought 100 grains of thiocyanate at the Black and White Pharmacy on O'Farrell Street, right?
I did no such thing.
You signed Evelyn Jones on the register.
That's a lie.
Is this the woman, Mr. Thorson?
That's the woman. I make a practice of remembering the faces of people who buy poison.
Excuse me. I think I'd like to sit down.
Sure, Doctor. Take a chair over there. Now, Miss Withers, why did you try to frame Mrs. Cameron? Why did you put poison in the medicine you knew she had to give him?
I didn't do it.
Don't lie to me. Now, what did you do with the bottle?
I didn't do anything with it. I left it in the...
Oh, you did have the bottle, huh? Why did you try to frame Mrs. Cameron? Why did you try to frame her?
She killed him. She killed him just as surely as if she...
As if she put the poison in the bottle instead of you, that's it, isn't it?
She didn't love him. She never did. He was as good as dead.
So you thought you'd finish the job and hang it around her neck?
Lieutenant, I must see Mrs. Cameron. Where is she?
In the next room, lying down. Go ahead, Dr. Evans. Now, Miss Withers, we're going to take this all down right from the very...
Carol,
You're looking for Mrs. Cameron?
Yes, the lieutenant said...
You're Dr. Evans?
Yes, I am.
Well, Mrs. Cameron's gone, but she asked me to give you a message, and she said she was waiting for you at the French restaurant on Washington Street. She said you'd know the place.
Oh, yes, thank you. I know the place. Carol.
Oh, Paul.
Carol.
Oh, please sit down, Paul.
Here it is, the same table, as before.
And we said it would never happen again.
Yes, the nerve of us, saying what will and won't happen.
We were fools, Paul.
I was the fool, thinking all the time that you'd killed him.
I know, but you had every reason when I think how I acted after it happened. But I thought it was you. You gave me his prescription that morning, and an hour after I gave it to him, he was dead.
We were both wrong. It was Lucinda who killed him.
She thinks she did. They say they'll have a better case against her if they let her confess it first before they tell her.
Tell her what?
Paul, when you brought the new prescription that morning, the old bottle was still half full. And that's the one she put the poison in.
What?
That's the way it happened, Paul. You see, darling, I used the new bottle the night he died. That's why I was so sure you did it.
The prescription was perfectly all right. There was nothing...
Of course it was.
And I was so sure he was poisoned. Those symptoms...
Lucinda was lying, Paul, about the burning in his throat and the cramps. Don't you see?
Then the autopsy was okay. There was no murder.
No, there was no murder, Paul. You see, darling, your diagnosis was correct. John died of natural causes, just as you said on the certificate.
Let that whistle be your signal for the Signal Oil program, The Whistler, each Wednesday night at the same time. Brought to you by the Signal Oil Company, marketers of Signal gasoline and motor oil and fine quality automotive accessories. Signal has asked me to remind you, to get the most driving pleasure, drive at sensible speeds, be courteous, and obey traffic regulations. It may save a life, possibly your own. Featured in tonight's story were Kathy Lewis and Joseph Kearns. The Whistler was produced by George W. Allen, with story by Harold M. Swanton, music by Wilbur Hatch, and was transmitted to our troops overseas by the Armed Forces Radio Service. Next Wednesday, for a full hour of mystery over most of these stations, tune in a half hour earlier. Enjoy The Saint as well as The Whistler. This is Marvin Miller speaking.
This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
It's intermission time at the Baba Ghoulie Show. Time to refresh yourself and visit our snack bar. Got a yen for some hot popcorn? How's about your favorite soft drinks, which are sparkling cold? And there's all kinds of candy to tempt you. It's radio time, folks. Enjoy the rest of the program. This radio show has been brought to you by... Hello, kids. Bored at home? Can't get any girls to come over? Well, then call up some ghouls to come over instead. They'll certainly scare the pants off of ya. Just dial 1-900-CALL-GHOULS and hear some scary stories.
$2 for the first minute, 35 cents each additional minute, plus 3 solds for the full experience. Ask your parents' permission first.
And now back to our radio show. Hello, operator. Can you please connect me with OTR Halloween Holidays? I don't want to miss this episode of the Ghoulie Show.
This is Cy Harris with an important announcement about Sherlock Holmes. Commencing Monday, January 3rd, and each Monday thereafter, the adventures of Sherlock Holmes will be heard at a new time over most of these mutual stations. Consult your local papers or mutual station for the time of the broadcast. From New York City, the makers of Clippercraft clothes for men and more than 1,200 leading retail stores from coast to coast presents Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's immortal character, the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes, starring John Stanley. This week's story, The Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle.
Just look at that precious stone, Watson.
Yes, Holmes. Incredibly beautiful. So pure. So brilliant.
Quite. But behind the beauty there is evil, Watson. This carbuncle was found in southern China, and...
Why do they call this stone a carbuncle, Holmes? Isn't a carbuncle ruby red?
Indeed it is. But this is blue, and the rarity of it has given it a sinister history. For the sake of it, there have been several robberies, an acid throwing, a suicide, and 2 murders.
If you're resolved to wage a private war on high prices, here's a great way to begin. Go to the friendly independent store in your community that sells Clippercraft clothes. Select the luxurious Clippercraft suit that satisfies your taste, but note that it costs only $40 or $45. It's a terrific value. It has to be. Your Clippercraft dealer is one of the more than 1,200 independent stores from coast to coast who concentrate their huge purchasing power for the greatest possible savings in production and distribution, so that even a rich-looking pure worsted suit with the famous Clippercraft label costs only $45. Yes, the store in your community that sells Clippercraft clothes is your personal purchasing agent, your private value scout. They pick Clippercraft especially to keep you sold, and they're 100% right. You'll find out for yourself when you compare Clippercraft with clothes selling for many dollars more. Well, Dr. Watson, since we're all in the holiday mood, I'd guess that you've deliberately selected the adventure of the Blue Carbuncle for this Christmas season.
Indeed I have, Mr. Harris. The adventure was both a Christmas tale and a most intriguing crime. It was Christmas morning. It was a glorious London Christmas. We'd had a thick blanket of snow on the streets, and it glistened in the flickering gaslight. Now and then a sleigh would dash by, the horses prancing along as though they shared the festive mood, shaking their heads, it seemed, deliberately to jingle the bells on the harness. Stout gentlemen, their cheeks as red as could be, a broad grin on their faces, held the reins tightly in their mittens, carefully piloting their cargoes of gaily wrapped packages. At the corner of Good Street on Tottenham Court Road, a tall man with a pointed beard, rather impoverished looking, was trudging along. He carried a white goose slung over his shoulder. As he reached the corner, a group of young rowdies began to tease him.
Yo, where you going, Governor?
How'd you bet a few pennies for Christmas, eh, Governor?
I'd gladly give you a few coins, but I really can't spare them.
How about that goose you're carrying, eh? Blimey, His Majesty must have plenty of spare change to bought a goose like that.
No, please. This goose is all I can bring home to my family for Christmas.
I bet you I can knock his head off with a snowball.
No,
even though
please.
he is so tall, even though his eye is a church steeple.
Come on, Governor, I'll bought a few pennies.
Let go of my coat.
Hey, watch his hat now. Here goes my snowball. Yeah.
Oh, my hat!
Oh, good boy, you've knocked it off.
Why, you ragamuffin! If you won't behave, I'll take this walking stick of mine and
Out of the
have
way,
at
boys.
you.
He's swinging now.
Oh, he missed.
I'll catch you,
you
boys up to? You leave that poor chap alone. Fine way to get Christmas time. Now be off with you, be off.
Thank you, sir, thank you.
Not at all. My name is Peterson.
Good heavens, the police, and I've broken that window. Thank you for assisting me, sir. A Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Oh, wait, you left your hat there on the snow and you dropped your goose. Come back here. Come back.
And so, my dear Watson, Peterson was left the victor in the Battle of Tottenham Court Road, with the stranger's battered hat and his Christmas goose.
What did he do with the spoils, Holmes?
He brought them here to Baker Street, knowing that even the smallest problems are of interest to me.
Why didn't he return the hat and the bird to the chap who owned them?
My dear fellow, there lies the problem. Peterson does not know the identity of the tall, thin gentleman who vanished into the dark.
There wasn't a single clue to the gentleman's identity?
By now, Watson, you must have realized that there is never a lack of clues. There's only a lack of the intelligence necessary to find them.
Well, the rightful owner of the bird must be found immediately, Holmes. The poor devil's lost his Christmas dinner.
Christmas, poppycock.
What clues did you find?
A small card was tied to the bird's left leg. The card read, "For Mrs. Henry Baker." Upon the lining of the hat, which I have here in my hand, you'll notice the initials HB. But as there are some thousands of Bakers, it's not easy to restore lost property to any one of them.
And where is the Christmas goose?
By now, I should say it's fulfilling the ultimate destiny of every plump goose. We were afraid lest it spoil, therefore it's roasting at this moment in front of Peterson's fire.
Is there any hope at all of finding this Henry Baker? Returning his hat?
There's a great deal of hope of finding him.
Oh, I'm sorry to burst in about like you like this, Mr. Holmes, but the goose, the Christmas goose, sir.
I trust the news of the goose justifies the melodrama of your entrance, Peterson.
Oh, Mr. Holmes,
That of the goose, has it returned to life and flapped off through your kitchen window?
Look, Mr. Holmes, my wife found this in its crop. Is that a diamond?
Why, yes, Dr. Watson, it must be. It cuts into glass as though it were putty.
When you opened the goose, you found this precious stone inside of it?
This is more than a precious stone, Watson. This is the precious stone. This is the Countess of Morcar's Blue Carbuncle.
Is it really her?
Precisely. I ought to know its size and shape, seeing that I've read the advertisement about it in the Times every day. This Blue Carbuncle is unique. The reward of £1,000 for its return is certainly not a 20th part of its market price.
Reward of £1,000?
Yes.
You mind if I sit down?
Well, didn't I read in the newspaper that it was lost at the Hotel Cosmopolitan home?
You did, Watson. On December the 22nd, John Horner, a plumber, was accused of having stolen it from the Countess's apartment. The evidence against him was very strong.
£1,000?
James Ryder, the head attendant at the hotel, accused Horner. He said he'd shown Horner to the Countess's dressing room so that Horner might repair a grate that was loose.
Yes, I remember that now.
Ryder left Horner alone in the room. When Ryder came back, Horner was gone. The bureau had been forced open, and the box where the jewel was kept lay empty.
Yes, I see.
There was a maid involved, too, a Catherine Cusack. She rushed into the room when she heard Ryder shouting about the robbery and found the situation exactly as he described it in court.
Yes, Holmes, but if this Horner stole the jewel, how did it get into the bird? And what has Henry Baker to do with all this?
Mr. Baker, Watson, should provide a satisfactory explanation to that mystery. We shall determine his innocence or guilt by a simple test the moment we produce him.
How shall we do that, Holmes?
Well, I had nothing to do with the robbery, you understand? I just
One
found the...
moment, Peterson. We shall place an advertisement in the evening papers, Watson. That would be the simplest method. Would you give me a pencil and that slip of paper?
Oh, yes, of course, Holmes. There you are.
Found at the corner of Good Street a goose and a black felt hat. Mr. Henry Baker can have the same by applying at 6:30 this evening at 221B Baker Street.
Will he see it in the papers?
Oh, undoubtedly, Watson. He's a poor man. The loss was a heavy one. Peterson, would you have this put in the evening papers?
Oh, very well, Mr. Holmes. And the stone?
I shall return the stone to the Countess immediately. And, Peterson, would you buy a goose on your way back and leave it with me? We must have one to give to this gentleman in place of the one which your family is now devouring.
Well, certainly, Mr. Holmes. Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. £1,000 reward. Oh, great Lord of mercy, what a wonderful Christmas this is. I'll be £1,000 richer. God rest ye merry gentlemen. Let nothing you dismay.
Hey, now, just look at this precious stone, Watson.
Oh, yes, Holmes. Incredibly beautiful. So pure. So brilliant.
Quite. But behind the beauty, there's evil, Watson. This carbuncle was found in the banks of the Amoy River in southern China.
Why do they call this stone a carbuncle, Holmes? Isn't a carbuncle ruby red?
Indeed it is, but this is a blue carbuncle, and the rarity of it has given it a sinister history. There have been several robberies, an acid throwing, a suicide, and 2 murders, just for the sake of this 40-grain weight of crystallized charcoal. You see, Watson, in a great jewel such as this, every facet may stand for a bloody deed.
If you were shopping for the finest silver, you would naturally look for the sterling mark. Similarly, you want assurance of quality and value when you shop for clothes. When you buy Clippercraft, you get double assurance. The name of the store plus the Clippercraft label. Now, that's your proof that you're getting one of America's greatest values. You see, the Clippercraft label is the symbol of a remarkable plan that concentrates the immense purchasing power of more than 1,200 fine independent stores from coast to coast. The savings on production and distribution go straight into your pocket. Now, that's why your truly expensive-looking Clippercraft topcoat or overcoat is only $40 to $47.50. And that's why millions of men cheer the incredibly modest prices of Clippercraft's new zipper-lining topcoats. That's why men who know insist on Clippercraft clothes bearing the Clippercraft label. So be sure to visit the Clippercraft store in your city. And remember, that's one of the more than 1,200 leading retail stores across the nation where courtesy and friendly service are always yours. The store that is proud to add its fine name to that of Clippercraft clothes in the label of your suit, topcoat, and overcoat. And remember also, not every pattern is always available in your size, but keep trying. It will pay you to wait for Clippercraft clothes bearing the Clippercraft label. Well, Dr. Watson, shall we return to the story of the criminal who stole the blue carbuncle?
Most certainly, Mr. Harris. I returned to Holmes's room later that evening to find Holmes with Mr. Henry Baker, the gentleman who'd lost his hat and his Christmas goose, who had appeared in response to the advertisement.
About your bird, Mr. Baker. We were compelled to eat it.
You've eaten my bird?
Yes, it would have been of no use to anyone had we not done so. I presume this other goose upon the sideboard will answer your purpose equally well?
Yes, I believe it will.
We still have the feathers, the legs, the crop, and so on of your original bird, if you wish to have them. Would they be of use to you, Mr. Baker?
No, none whatsoever.
You seem hesitant, sir, doubtful.
I'm just moved by your kindness, gentlemen. You might well have kept the bird and done nothing, but in the tradition of the Christmas spirit, you have provided me with a joyful surprise.
Mr. Baker, would you tell me where you got the original bird? I'm somewhat of a fowl fancier, and I've seldom seen a better-grown goose.
Certainly, Mr. Holmes. There are a few of us who frequent the Alpha Inn.
Near the museum?
Yes. This year, our host, Windigate by name, instituted a goose club, by which, on consideration of a few pennies every week, we were each to receive a bird at Christmas. My pennies were paid. Well, the rest is familiar to you. Now, if you'll pardon me, my hat.
Oh, yes. Here it is.
Thank you. I must dash home to share this wonderful bird with my family. You have the humble gratitude, gentlemen, of a poor soul whose Christmas you have brightened.
A small enough gift, sir, for the greatness of the day. Merry Christmas, Mr. Baker.
And a glorious holiday to you, Dr. Watson. Mr. Holmes.
Good evening, Mr. Baker.
He's quite innocent, eh, Holmes?
Quite.
Really, Holmes, you have not extended greetings to one person you know. That the Christmas spirit cannot reach the lofty, ice-bound heights where you keep yourself.
At the moment, Watson, a Mr. Horner stands at the assizes charged with the robbery of the Countess of Morcar's Blue Carbuncle. Mr. Horner may serve a long sentence in prison undeservedly, and the actual culprit will still be at large. Who placed the priceless stone in the crop of the bird? We must answer that damning question, Watson. We've no time for sentimental rubbish. Quickly, to the Alpha Inn.
There's the landlord of this inn at the bar, Holmes. A red-faced chap in the white apron. Name's Windigate.
Mr. Windigate.
Well, what'll it be?
2 glasses of beer, please.
2 glasses of beer it is.
Your beer should be excellent, if it's as good as your geese.
My geese?
Yes, I was speaking only half an hour ago to Mr. Henry Baker, who's a member of your goose club.
Oh, but them's not our geese.
Indeed? Then whose are they?
Oh, I got 2 dozen of them from a salesman in Covent Garden.
I know some of those salesmen. Which one was it?
Well, let me see now. His name was, oh, yes, Breckenridge.
Breckenridge. Thank you, sir. Come, Watson.
Yes, right you are.
Oh, wait, you haven't drunk up.
Your payment, Mr. Windigate. We've more urgent matters at hand.
Not even time for a toast to the jolliest holiday of them all?
No nonsense.
Well, good night, Ebenezer Scrooge.
Ill-advised humor is the eternal earmark of third-rate minds. Good night, sir.
By Jove, Holmes, even old Windigate's caught the spirit of the day. I must say, Holmes, for you to regard this beautiful legend of St. Nicholas, and the one day we may all walk this earth with a carefree and childish heart, to regard it as sentimental rubbish, it's inexcusable, Holmes.
To my mind, Watson, there's but one inexcusable act, the failure of the human mind to solve a problem, especially a problem in crime. You must fetch a cab and race to Covent Garden Market. This salesman, this Breckenridge, he holds the solution to the riddle of the stolen jewel.
Try and hurry, Bill, my lad. Help me put up these shutters.
Right down, Mr. Breckenridge.
You hear those church bells, Bill, my lad?
I do, Mr. Breckenridge.
It's the sweetest music a man could ever hear. Church bells at Christmas time. You know what the bells are saying?
What, Mr. Breckenridge?
They're saying, you no business in the stall working this night. You, young Bill, belongs with the other youngsters round the tree. And me, Mr. Breckenridge, I should be standing at the punch bowl with me good wife and me dear friend. So, up for the shutters, Bill, my lad.
Good evening, Mr. Breckenridge.
I am that, and a very happy evening it is, too, sir. An holiday evening.
Yes, so it is. By George...
Quiet, Watson. Sold out of geese, I see.
I could let you have 500 tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning will not do. Surely you may find just one more. I was recommended to you.
By who?
We were recommended by the landlord of the Alpha Inn.
Oh, yes, I sent him a couple of dozen.
Fine birds they were, too. Where did you get them?
That then, mister, what are you driving at? Let's have it straight now.
It's straight enough.
Well, we should like to know who sold you the geese which you supplied to the Alpha Inn.
Well, I shan't tell you.
It's a matter of no importance, but I don't understand why you should be so disturbed over such a trifle.
Trifle, is it? You'd be angry if we were as pestered as I am. When I pay good money for a good article, that should be the end of the business. But it's where are the geese? And who did you sell the geese to? And what do you take for the geese? Never in all my years at this stall have I heard such a fuss.
Well, I have no connection with any other people who've been making inquiries. But I'm always ready to back my opinion on a matter of fowls.
Meaning just what?
Meaning that I have a fiver on it that the bird I ate is country bred.
Why do you say that, Holmes?
You've lost your fiver. It's town bred.
Nothing of the kind.
I say it is.
And I don't believe it.
You think you know more about fowls than I, who've handled them ever since I was a nipper? I'll have a sovereign on it with you, just to teach you not to be obstinate. Bring me the books, young Bill.
Oh, I'll fetch them. They're up on this shelf. Here's the big ledger.
Fine, lad, fine. Now then, Mr. Cocksure, if you step over here to the lamp...
Very well.
And lick at me thumb, and I'll find the page. I need them spectacles. There we are. Look at that third name. Just read it out to me.
Mrs. Oakshott, 117 Brixton Road, egg and poultry supplier.
Read the last entry.
December the 22nd, 24 geese at 7 shillings and sixpence.
Quite so. And what's it say underneath?
Sold to Mr. Windigate of the Alpha at 12 shillings.
What are you to say now?
You owe him a sovereign, Holmes.
And it is.
You won, Mr. Breckenridge. You won.
So I did, Bill Millette, and you may have the sovereign seated at Christmas time.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Come, Watson, the air about this store becomes sickeningly sweet.
I'm with you, Holmes. Well, evening, Mr. Breckenridge, and a Merry Christmas.
A Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Walk down the street a bit, Watson, and confer privately about our next step.
Well, I should say it's Brixton Road, Holmes. This Mrs. Oakshott who raises the geese must know how the Blue Carbuncle came to be in the bird's crop.
Undoubtedly. Now that I've duped Breckenridge by means of that wager and telling me the woman's name.
It's the salesman, Breckenridge. Who's the little fellow he's arguing with? He wasn't at the stall before.
If you come pestering me with all your silly talk, I'll send the dog at you.
But, Mr. Breckenridge,
You bring Mrs. Oakshott here, and I'll answer her. But what have you got to do with it? Did I buy the geese off you?
No, but one of them is mine all the same.
Well, then ask Mrs. Oakshott for it.
This may save us a visit to Brixton Road, Watson. Come, we'll see what's to be made of this fellow.
I've had enough of this. Get out!
He's chased the stranger away from his stall. Here he comes.
We must stop him, Watson. One moment. Stop where you are.
Who are you? What do you want?
You'll excuse me, sir. I could not help overhearing your conversation with Mr. Breckenridge. I believe I may be of assistance.
But who are you? How could you know anything about it?
My name is Sherlock Holmes. It's my business to know what other people don't know.
And I'm Dr. John Watson.
You, sir, are endeavoring to trace some geese which were sold by Mrs. Oakshott to Mr. Breckenridge at the stall down the street. The geese were sold in turn to Mr. Windigate at the Alpha Inn and then to Mr. Henry Baker.
Then you do know about it. You can help me?
Of course I can. Your name, sir?
My name is John Robinson.
No, the real name. It's always awkward doing business with an alias.
Well, my real name is James Ryder.
Precisely so. You are head attendant at the Hotel Cosmopolitan, where the Countess's precious jewelry disappeared.
Please, Mr. Holmes.
I suggest we discuss this case at my residence on Baker Street.
This is more like it. Oh, that fire's very cozy.
Mr. Ryder, I've invited you here to Baker Street because you want to know what became of those geese.
I want to know desperately, Mr. Holmes.
You are concerned, Mr. Ryder, with one bird, white, with a black bar across the tail.
You know about it? Can you tell me where it is?
It came here.
Here?
Yes. And it laid an egg after it was dead. The prettiest, brightest blue egg. I have it here in my strongbox. There it is. The Countess of Morcar's Blue Carbuncle.
Oh, I'd like to explain.
Grab him, Watson. He seems faint.
I'll help him into this chair. There we are.
Not a very sturdy or convincing criminal, are you, Mr. Ryder? You've heard, of course, of this blue stone?
It was Catherine Cusack who told me about it.
Yes, I see. Her ladyship's maid. You knew this man Horner had a criminal record, that it'd be easy to point suspicion toward him. You and the lady's maid managed to have Horner the plumber sent for. After he left, you rifled the jewel case, raised the alarm, and had him arrested.
Mr. Holmes, I never went wrong before. I never will again. Don't bring this into court.
It's all very well to be contrite now, Mr. Ryder. But you thought little enough of poor Horner in the dock for a crime of which he knew nothing.
I'll leave the country, Mr. Holmes. The charge against him will break down.
We still haven't had an account of how the precious stone got into the goose's crop, Holmes.
Yes, Watson. Well, Mr. Ryder, you begged forgiveness, but you do not explain very much.
Yes, I'll tell you. After I'd taken the stone, I knew there was no place about the hotel where it would be safe, so I've a friend, Maudsley by name. He served time in Pentonville. He knows the ways of thieves, and I counted upon Maudsley to help me turn the stone into money. I ran to my sister's house, Mrs. Oakshott on Brixton Road.
Yes, I presume that while you're there, it occurred to you to hide the priceless gem in the crop of one of her geese, which were probably waddling in her backyard when you arrived.
Just so, Mr. Holmes. She promised to give me one of the birds for the holidays, and I selected one, white, with a barred tail. I forced the jewel down its throat. Then my sister came out of the house. She told me to select a goose. Well, there was great numbers of them in the yard, and I pointed to what I thought was the proper bird, white with a barred tail. I carried the goose to Maudsley.
And when you opened its crop, you suddenly realized there was more than one goose that was white with a barred tail.
I was frantic, Mr. Holmes. I discovered the goose had been sold to Breckenridge at Covent Garden. I ran to his stall. That's where you found me. Now I'm a branded thief.
Miserable creature, Holmes.
Oh, I yielded to a moment's temptation. Don't turn me into Scotland Yard. I'll do whatever you ask. I'll make amends somehow.
You know, Holmes, if Ryder here doesn't appear in court, the case against Horner will collapse. That's fair enough, isn't it, Holmes? Send Ryder to jail now, and you may make him a jailbird for life. You may be commuting a felony, but you'll save this man's soul. Must you turn him over to the yard? Well, Holmes?
What do you say, Mr. Holmes? What do you say?
Get out, Mr. Ryder.
What?
No more words. Get out.
Oh, God bless you, sir. God bless you.
You've astonished me, Holmes.
Well, Watson, this is the season of forgiveness, isn't it?
Yes, of course it is, but, you know, I thought you'd quite forgotten that, Holmes. I thought you'd no use at all for Christmas. I thought landlord Windigate was quite right in calling you Ebenezer Scrooge.
Even old Scrooge had a change of heart, didn't he?
Yes, so he did, Holmes, so he did. Well, shall we drink to it? Shall we drink to John Ryder, landlord Windigate, Breckenridge the shopkeeper, and Little Bill? To them, and with all my heart, to you, Holmes. Merry Christmas.
I join you in the toast, my dear Watson. A very Merry Christmas indeed.
Well, Dr. Watson, the adventure of the Blue Carbuncle was a very charming and appropriate story. I imagine that next week, though, we return to the bloody, the grotesque, the great struggle between Holmes and the most brilliant criminals of his time.
We do, Mr. Harris. Next week's adventure is entitled The Adventure of the Malicious Moor, which strangely resembles the story of Shakespeare's Othello.
Well, that's a very attractive prospect, Dr. Watson. And, Doctor, as most of the friends of Sherlock Holmes know, an internationally famous society has been founded called the Baker Street Irregulars, a society of devotees to Holmes and to his adventures. And here in New York, there is a chapter known as the Diogenes Club, after the great Greek philosopher who searched the earth for an honest man carrying a legendary lantern. Now, each year, the Diogenes Club, whose members include many of the most distinguished personalities on the current American scene, makes special awards for outstanding achievements. On Wednesday, December 8th of this year, the very first recipient of this award, a Diogenes lantern, was President Harry S. Truman. The lantern was presented to our president by Mr. Elmer Davis and by Mr. Christopher Morley. In presenting it, Elmer Davis said that President Truman received it for shedding light on the political situation when the experts were in the dark. Now, in the absence of Dr. Charles Goodman, president of the Diogenes Club, I have been delegated to announce the latest award of the Diogenes lantern. Following the award to President Truman, the makers of Clippercraft clothes and all of us associated with the production of the adventures of Sherlock Holmes for radio are proud to announce the award of a Diogenes lantern for his brilliant portrayal of Holmes on the air to the eminent actor who plays the role on this program, the first citizen to receive the award after President Truman, Mr. John Stanley. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, for representing Dr. Goodman and his associates. It goes without saying that I am deeply honored to receive this second Diogenes lantern, and humble that I should be so singled out. I may say that I'm doubly humble in my approach to the portrayal of the great detective Sherlock Holmes. Again, thank you very much, and Happy New Year.
The makers of Clippercraft clothes in more than 1,200 stores from coast to coast have brought you another in the new series of broadcasts featuring the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Our stories are based upon the character Sherlock Holmes, created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and the program is produced and directed by Basil Loughlin. Sherlock Holmes is played by John Stanley, Dr. Watson by George Spelvin. This week's story was written by Howard Merrill with special music by Albert Furman. If you don't know your Clippercraft dealer, write Clippercraft, 200 Fifth Avenue, New York City. Remember, in 1949, beginning January 3rd, the makers of Clippercraft clothes will bring you the exciting adventures of Sherlock Holmes over most of these mutual stations on Monday nights. Check your local newspaper and mutual station for the time. Now be sure to listen January 3rd. That's January 3rd to Sherlock Holmes in the adventure of the malicious Moor. Harris speaking for Clippercraft Clothes and wishing all of you a Happy New Year. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
It's intermission time at the Baba Ghoulie Show. Time to refresh yourself and visit our snack bar. Got a yen for some hot popcorn? How's about your favorite soft drinks, which are sparkling cold? And there's all kinds of candy to tempt you. It's radio time, folks. Enjoy the rest of the program. Hope you're enjoying today's radio program. When it's done, be sure to check out our channel over at Watchwaddle. Enjoy some tunes with a nice cold soda. This week, guest quacking on the Baba Ghoulie Show, Waddle the Duck. And here's Waddle. Hey folks, Waddle from Watchwaddle here. Hope you're enjoying today's radio program. And if you're considering getting a new radio to listen to them, why not get one with the newest innovation, the 4-speed record player? Because available now is our newest hits from Watchwaddle Production. Check out me and the gang and our hilarious, zany, and crazy tunes, filled with spoofs, gags, and jokes. Available in our playlist collection. Check them out for some cheap laughs and running gags. Well, and when we say running gags, we ain't kidding, brother. Screwy Forrest's Watchwaddle cartoons. Available on Channel Watchwaddle. The Baba Ghoulie Show is brought to you by OTR Halloween Holidays.
To Overthrow Christmas, which has been going on for some time now. In fact, Norman Corwin wrote a play called The Plot to Overthrow Christmas, which has been broadcast on CBS for 3 years. Tonight, you will hear it again. This presentation is by way of a Christmas gift from CBS to its listeners on the principle that the best presents you can give your friends are the things you want for yourself. We wish you good cheer and ask you to follow the unraveling of The Plot to Overthrow Christmas by Norman Corwin.
Did you hear about the plot to overthrow Christmas? Well, gather ye now from Maine to the Isthmus of Panama and listen to the story of the utter inglory of some gory goings-on in hell. Now, it happened in Hades, ladies and gentlemen. It happened down there that the fiends held a meeting. The fiends held a meeting for the purpose of defeating Christmas. With the aid of a fade on the radio, we'll take you there with a hi and a hey-de-ho to hear firsthand the brewing of the plot down in the deepest Stygian grot.
Grot is a poetical term for grotto. Whenever you hear my voce sotto, or sotto voce, whichever you prefer, it's just I taking pains to make quite sure that nobody makes a poetical allusion which might in any way create confusion. I return you now to the voice you were hearing before I had to do this interfering.
As I was saying, in this Stygian grot, the notables of Limbo hatched a plot. And what went on in the sulphurous hole will soon pick up by remote control. Of course, such a pickup is not made quickly. As a matter of fact, it's done rather trickly. You mustn't mind if it sounds erratic. That's merely intraterrestrial static. And don't be surprised if you're deafened by thunder just as we start on our journey under. You'll hear earthquakes and all of the commoner varieties of natural phenomena. And so, below, via radio, to the regions where legions of the damned go.
You interrupt me in the middle of a movement of my favorite concerto. You should look to the improvement of your manners.
Sir, if you please, my apologies. I would not have intruded upon your recital if the matter were not so terribly vital.
The most important matter in the world is piddling when it comes to be compared with Nero's fiddling.
Now, what you say may be very true, but I have been sent here to summon you to a great mass meeting of the tortured souls down in the grot of the flaming coal.
A meeting? What for? What's the big idea? Why can't a fellow have some peace down here?
Peace, poor soul, can't be found in the premises. This is a region abounding in nemesis.
Now you're talking like a travel folder. Tell me, varlet, before I smolder, why are we meeting? Who's on the spot?
We're meeting in order to fabricate a plot. A plot against the festival that mortal men comfort in and gladden in again and again. You see, every year...
Never mind the facts. I don't want to hear how mortal man acts. The only information about which I care concerns the mass meeting and who'll be there.
His wickedness, Mephisto, will preside.
Naturally.
And several of the Borgias will be sitting at his side. And down in front, by the sizzling sodium, will be many personalities noted for their odium. Haman, Caligula, Medusa, and Legree.
That's all very nice, but what about me?
Oh, you'll be sitting in row A, center, between Ivan the Terrible, the Tormentor, and Circe.
Mercy! Why, they're both deranged.
Do you wish me to see if your seat can be changed?
Yes, if you will, please. Taste comes first, even though a soul may be eternally cursed.
Righto. See you at the meeting, then?
Yes. And now back to my fiddling again.
This is I, the sotto voce person. It should have been explained that Nero's rehearsing for nothing in particular. He's just that way. While hell's fires burn, he likes to play. Makes him feel a little more at home. It's just an avocation he picked up in Rome.
I've called you here from over 60 seas of boiling pitch and blazing phosphorus to stop what constitutes a loss for us. We've lost prestige, and I greatly deplore that we stand in danger of losing more in the way of confidence and spirit. We are far from our goal. We're nowhere near it. And this is the reason. Though we've done well in carrying forward the work of hell, we've left a very big job unfinished. After all these years, there is undiminished goodwill on earth every late December because of Christmas. Now, please remember that as long as this continues to be, the race of man will not belong to me. I will listen now to any questions you may want to ask, and then suggestions.
Mr. Chairman,
Brother Heyman has the floor.
you say we have done well in our effort to sell evil. I say we have done better. We have carried out the letter of your law. We've done what I think is a pretty good job. And I say, as a veteran Damon...
Sit down there, Heyman. Enough of this folly.
Sit down yourself. You're off your trolley.
Sit down, for I am Ivan the Terrible.
You're telling us. Why, you are unbearable.
Hello, demons. This is no way to act. Please proceed with a little more tact. I want more decorum in this forum. All personal remarks must cease. Now, Brother Ivan, will you speak your piece?
I merely want to say in a casual way that Heyman is a radical. He always gets fanatical. Why anybody think to hear him snort that the work of the Nazis should just stop short? Anybody think to hear him talking that Hitler and Hito should stop stalking the ways of the world?
Mr. Chairman, Brother Ivan is a demagogue with a brain like a fly and the manners of a hog. Why, he says
Now that's enough. We will hear from others. Surely there must be among you brothers enough venom and malevolence to crush a mortal man's benevolence. It's come to this. Are we going to let a little holiday like Christmas get the better of us all down here below?
No.
Very well then, sirs. Very well. Let's go. Let's lay down our plans now to overthrow this Christmas business and all that guff of holly and mistletoe and stuff. Brother Caligula may take the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I abhor, as a former emperor, anything which curbs our rule. I suggest we start right in manufacturing more sin. Let us give some presents, too. Candy sticks and things to chew. Fruits and nuts and little cakes. Poisonous as rattlesnakes.
Bravo!
Let our subtlest worker be bichloride of mercury. Let us wrap in tinsel bright little gifts of dynamite.
Oh!
Work things so that men will fear when 12:25 draws near.
Bravo!
Soon at this rate, if you please, men will hang from Christmas trees.
My dear Caligula, permit the chair to say that we think you've got something there. And now, with this fine start, let's hear some more. Yes, Brother Nero, do you want the floor?
With all due respect to Caligula's views, I think there's a better method we can use. I've just heard lately men are giving the razz to classical music by making it jazz. They're swinging it Bach and what is keener. They're doing the shag to Palestrina.
Yeah.
As a connoisseur of music, of course I love the works of Rimsky-Korsakov. But today I note with a bitter shrug they've made Scheherazade a jitterbug.
Much as we admire your clever rhyme, will you get to the point? We're wasting time.
I was just about to say, when interrupted, that Christmas can easily be corrupted. If you take and swing all the Christmas carols,
I think of the evil. Just barrels and barrels of sacrilege every time you play a pious song in a profane way. Why, once you entice him to swing Noel, then victory belongs to us fiends. Well?
Mr. Legree.
I'd like to say that it seems to me that you all's barking up a coonless tree. I think Mr. Nero's made a wrong guess. The way to go about it is to get in Congress and bribe a bunch of senators who know their oats and just make a purchase of a block of votes. And then they can legislate a situation where they rules old Christmas right out of the nation. They can all get together and pass a law where there ain't gonna be no Christmas anymore.
I think Legree's suggestion is a beaut.
That's very cute and quite astute.
To me, it seems a bit impractical because you have to be so tactical.
Why?
For instance, now, Senator who'd sell, his vote to our lobbyists might very well sell right out again and become a tool of agencies representing the Yule.
By the eternal night. That's right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Miss Borgia.
I say that we should all give pause to think about this Santa Claus. He is the man behind the scenes, the symbol of what Christmas means. If we could rub him out, my friend, our troubles would be at an end. Just think how it would tickle us to liquidate St. Nicholas. A girl like me could fascinate the guy and then assassinate?
Do you think that you could do it, pretty one? Are you sure you wouldn't be by pity one?
Sometimes you are an awful tease, my master Mephistopheles. Ain't I murdered several dozens? Poisoned uncles, aunts, and cousins? Don't my work right here in Hades make me first among the ladies? Men of virtue all have cussed me. I am sure that you can trust me.
Of that we haven't a particle of a doubt, Miss Borgia. And I'm sure we all have nothing but kind feelings towards you. But many times a woman's spy, alas, adores her victims. Dames make poor ambassadors.
Do you imply that such defects are found inherent in my sex?
I do.
Well, listen here, old Ironsides. You're heading for some cyanides. You've crossed a Borgia, and you know the consequences that follow.
Come, disciple. This is very bad. There's nothing to be gained by getting mad. Suppose we put the matter to a vote. First, the plan of Brother Nero's, viz., to swing the hymns and pious music. All those for will please respond by raising up a paw.
For?
And those against?
Against!
Very well. Now, the project of Legree's. Who is there here who totally agrees?
I do.
Legree votes for himself. And those opposed?
Opposed!
And now, all those who favor Borgia's cause, it being to eliminate Santa Claus.
Aye!
And those opposed? Seems the women have a way with them. At least they've carried the day with them. The motion's carried. And now we'll decide which one of us will take Nick for a ride. We'll all draw lots and thus settle the moot point of who will be sent to execute.
Well, all right. This is your old friend Sotto Voce, visiting down where it's eternal noche. Noche is Spanish for night, you know. Merely a reference, just to show that English isn't all I have to go by. Oh, well. I guess I've missed my calling. I should have been a lobbyist. You see, I'm stalling to give them time to finish the voting. Let's see. The weather. Now I'm quoting the Daily Hellion. Continued heat both overhead and under feet. Fresh and moderate gases blowing up to gale force and then going north by westerly. Light showers of brimstone toward the evening hours. That's what it says here. I'm not fibbing. How am I doing with my ad-libbing? This is a thing a gabbard have fun with. Say, the drawing should soon be done with. We expect the results at any moment now. As soon as...
The lots have been drawn, and I'm glad to say the honor has fallen Nero's way. Now, Nero, you are charged with a great task. It's the evilest deed that we could ask a fiend to do. We'll be proud of you.
Now, just one moment. How do I get there? What do I wear? Is it dry or wet there? Is it fact or fancy or just word of mouth that he lives at the pole? Is it north or south? If he dwells in the regions to which I've referred, must I pass through a camp of Admiral Byrd? What shall I use when it comes to the showdown? A gun or a dagger? Well, give me the lowdown.
Now, Nero, you needn't sound so tragic. You'll get to Earth by the blackest magic. To create an express elevator is simple for an expert spell creator. With a lot of pyrotechnic dazzle, we'll let you off on a hill in Basel, Switzerland. From there, you will make your way to the Arctic Circle, then break your way through ice with a blowtorch. After a while, you are bound to reach Santa's domicile. And once you get there, oh, my dear Nero, all of our work will have gone for zero. If you don't succeed in your assignment, a disadvantage of our confinement. In limbo's the fact that we only get one chance in all the eternal roulette of circumstance.
I know. If at first we don't succeed, we can try again. But there is no need, because nothing will come of it. Meaning no offense, do you mind if I take my departure hence?
That, my friends, was a big brass gong. It's used in this story right along to indicate that we're about to travel to points where the plot will further unravel. And now, if Ambassador Nero elects, we'll have another spot of sound effects.
Tell me, stranger. Is this Basel, Switzerland, or is it already Donner and Blitzerland?
Donner und Blitzenlands, 5,000 miles away.
Thank you, mister. Good day. Tell me, stranger, I've been walking inland for weeks. Where am I now?
In Finland.
Tell me, stranger, because I've lost stock, where am I now?
In Vladivostok.
Listen, stranger, after all these centuries of blistering heat, now I have to suffer from freezing feet. I'm wincing with pain from this pesky toe.
No speak English. Eskimo.
I declare by my frenetic soul, I must be over the magnetic pole. My watch has stopped. Can that be right? I wonder... Ah, a light! A light! In a moment now you'll hear me knock on Santa's door, and he'll unlock it, never more to lock again.
Coming!
So is doom.
How do you do, sir?
Very well indeed. And you, sir?
Splendidly. Won't you come right in? Take your coat off. I see your chin is frozen. Also your hands and knees. Sit down while I get you some antifreeze.
Don't bother, sir. I will not be long. I'm about to perpetrate a fearful wrong. In short, I am going to do away with...
Take it easy.
Do not play with that gun. I know all about you.
Really?
Haven't I had my agents scout you for weeks? You've come all this way to abolish Christmas. Now, let me say...
Listen, Santa, I'm no callow stripling. I've read Ernest Hemingway and Kipling and also The Shooting of Dan McGrew. And plenty of detective stories, too. And just to show you what a broad guy I am, I've also read The Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Do you think that a fellow with his reading so graded could have learned so little as to be dissuaded from a main objective? Why, don't make me giggle.
I'd feel a lot better if you wouldn't wiggle that gun so. Much as I'm impressed with your education, I honestly believe that a figure of your station should have given more thought to the ways of man and less devotion to the cult of Pan.
By others, no doubt your wisdom may be prized, but I didn't come here to be criticized. In fact, I came to dispatch a duty. So don't hand me any of this tutti-frutti. If you've any last words you want to say, then spill them. I haven't got all day.
Now, what's the rush? Unless I've counted wrong, the polar day has always been 6 months long.
Well, after I've disposed of you, I've got to hurry. Right back to hell, they'll begin to worry.
Not about you, but about your career in homicide. Do you think that the mere loss of you would make them hysterical? Their only interest is numerical.
Think so?
Mephisto wants to rule just as much of humanity as possible for reasons of personal vanity.
By the sticks, you're right. To think that he'd dare. Are there any ladies here? Will you permit me to swear?
My answer to that is an emphatic no. There are several lady dolls in the toy room below.
Oh, Claudius. Oh, Cassius. Oh, Naphthaline, what a fool I've been. What a fool I've been. Yeah, but wait. I think I see what you're after. You're as clever as a big-time Roman grafter. You remind me now of my royalty, just to get me in the mood for disloyalty. Do you think I could be that meanly deceptive to Satan? Why, Santa, I'm keenly perceptive. I can see right through all your clever ruses. Nero can be plenty foxy when he chooses. I'll have you know that I'm partly a dreamer, partly a wit, and partly a schemer. I'm part philosophical and also part mystic.
I suppose you fancy that you're highly artistic.
Fancy? Why, I have such a sense of beauty.
Don't hand me a helping of tutti frutti. Any creature who really had beauty in his soul would appreciate Christmas. He would know that the whole idea of the holiday was one of such power that all the fiends below might gnash their fangs and glower, yet never in a million years could do it harm. Because it has a glory, a greatness, a charm you know nothing about.
That's so?
The spirit that it venerates, the good cheer that it generates, are things far, far beyond you. For all your wealth, no man on earth could sell ye these.
Am I so cursed as that? Will you tell me, please, what beauties there may be that I've never seen?
Have you ever seen a Christmas tree, tall and green, smelling of woodlands, covered with a sheen of silveriness, its branches bending low, with the fruits of human kindness instead of snow?
No.
Have you ever closely witnessed what takes place any Christmas morning on a young child's face? Or perceived any beauties purer than the joys distilled in the hearts of little girls and boys? Have you ever watched a fire in a fireplace on a Christmas Eve? Or listened to a grace at a table heavy with fruits and cakes and all the wonders that a kitchen makes, fowls and pastries, wines and meats, and nuts and raisins and candied sweets? Have you ever seen mistletoe hanging from a ceiling? In frosty air, heard a far bell pealing? Have you ever come back from a sleigh ride, tingling, and your feet keeping time with the sleigh bells jingling? Have you ever seen the beauty of a sprig of holly? Or felt for a moment how it feels to be jolly?
Golly.
Have you ever known how exceedingly pleasant it is to unwrap a Christmas present? Did you ever know how much cheer it lends to be wished a Merry Christmas by all your friends? Did you ever experience the fun of giving? Do you know at all the joys of living?
I guess I don't. For all of me, I never knew such things could be. Just think how long in ignorance I've slept.
It must have been the company you kept.
I was a wicked tyrant once, you know.
Oh, yes, but that was centuries ago. You really had no way of knowing.
Perhaps. I guess that I'll be going. I really should be getting on my way.
But do you have to? Don't you want to stay?
You see, I'm just a bit,
Embarrassed?
Why, yes, sir.
Now, don't look so harassed. I know just why you came and who it was that sent you. But that's all done with. I take it you repent you of all your past mistakes?
With many pains and aches of conscience.
We interrupt this broadcast for a special bulletin. The Algiers radio, recorded by the CBS shortwave listening station, has just reported that Admiral Jean Darlan has been assassinated. Said the Algiers announcer, complete order reigns in Algiers. Further details at 8:55 tonight. We return you now to the program, The Plot to Overthrow Christmas.
Here. And tell me, will you have some wine or beer? I never touched the stuff myself, but I managed to keep on hand a little rye for purposes medicinal. I mean, your chin should be unfrozen. What a state it's in.
A while ago, you asked me if I understood good cheer. I do so now, St. Nicholas. I see it standing here. I want to ask you something, sir. Now, please don't give a yelp. Is there any sort of work to do where I can be of help?
Indeed there is. Indeed there is. And I'm glad you asked me. I have so many toys to make. This year the job's got past me. But first you sit and eat this bowl. I've got a little trifle I'd like for you to see. So will you sit right here and stifle your curiosity? I'll get it for you right away. It's down the hall, please.
Who'd ever think it? Will wonders never cease? At last, after all these centuries, I'm so happy I could buzz. It shows you what a lot a little Christmas spirit does. As emperor, I envied oft the cheerfulness of peasants, and now I...
Well, here it is, Nero, my boy. By way of Christmas presents, I offer you this little gift.
But Santa, for what reason?
A very good one, sir. To wit, compliments of the season. Well, go ahead and open it. Why stand there so, reflecting?
I'm just collecting thoughts, St. Nick. My thoughts I'm just collecting. Just think how far a tiny bit of fellowship will carry us. Oh, well. I say, what's this? What's this? It is a Stradivarius. Oh, thank you. Thanks a million times. I don't know what to say to you. I'll tell you what I'll do, St. Nick. I'll start right in and play for you. I'll play all night and day for you.
Fine, here's some music. I'm sure you'll play it well. It's a little piece entitled Noel, Noel.
This is I. Remember me, your sotto voce friend? I'll just come back to tell you that the story's at an end.
Once again, the plot to overthrow Christmas has been foiled. 1 year ago today, none of us knew whether on December 24th, 1942, we could do such a broadcast as the Norman Corwin holiday play you have just heard. However, we could and we did. And we rather think that the plot to overthrow Christmas will be thwarted again in 1943.
Thanks for watching the Baba Ghoulie Show by OTR Halloween Holidays. This is Waddle the Duck saying check out Channel Watchwaddle for some fun cartoons with no static.
Huh?